How's it going out there? Thank you for tuning in to the Tomatolito Show. I got another episode and another addition to this brief series that I put together in which we're paying homage, we're paying respect to the other notable MMA organizations and fighting organizations that exist, whether around the world or stateside. These are some of the more notable ones that seem to gain a lot of viewership, a lot of attention. And for those of you who haven't heard any of these organizations and you happen to hear from them first here, then awesome. I was able to bring some value to your life. Hopefully you become a fan. You check out those organizations. And if you become a fan and a follower of them, then great. The purpose was served, right? There is a lot of organizations that I may not know about. There is a lot of organizations that I may not cover on this brief series that I'm putting together or that I put together for you guys. And if there's one that you would like for me to cover, email it to me, send me a message, find me on Twitter, find me on Instagram, send me a DM through Instagram. Just let me know what it is that you want me to cover. And I promise you, I'll present it in a respectable manner and I'll do justice by the organization and I'll do justice by you, the fight fan, who brought it to my attention. And I might become a fan of that organization if I end up hearing about it, right? So send it to me. Let me know what it is that you want me to cover. We're going to jump into another large one. This is another big organization doing big things in the sport of MMA, and this is RIZIN. The RIZIN FF, right? RIZIN Fighting Federation. It's a Japanese mixed martial arts organization. They were founded and established in 2015, and the people behind this organization are the former Pride Fighting Championship and Dream Stage Entertainment President Nobuyuki Sakakibara, Japanese president, and so just reading that right now, this is the man who was behind Pride and behind Dream, two different organizations, but they were very big organizations. Now, of course, if you remember, UFC ended up taking over Pride and having that big merger and then taking over Pride, essentially where all those fighters ended up going to the UFC. The fighters that didn't ended up going to other organizations within Asia, elsewhere. Dream was also a big company. Now RIZIN is going to be a mixture of a little bit of both. And as far as rules and as far as the way that the companies are run, or the company is run, it's almost like Pride and Dream is a mixture, and this is what created RIZIN, right? And you see a lot of that influence when you watch the RIZIN events. The concept of the event is to have a platform for the top competitors, obviously, from the best organizations. Now, this is where they stand aside. They provide a platform for top competitors from the very best organizations that exist around the world. Who is it that you don't see compete in RIZIN? UFC fighters. UFC fighters, when they sign a contract with the UFC, they're restricted to solely fighting within the UFC. Now, other organizations give the fighters the freedom to bounce back between organizations, and RIZIN is basically catering to it. They open their organization to everybody around the world. You guys are competing in Bellator. You guys are competing in one championship, and you're more than welcome to come over here. So that's the cool thing that they're doing. They opened it up to the top competitors from around the world. RIZIN, they have a concept, right? And there's three things that they aim at completing, or that they aim at. How can I word this? They basically run the organization behind these following concepts to word it better, right? So here they are. The first one, the finale, and this is quote unquote, right? So finale is the first big concept that they base their organization on. A platform where fighters at the top of their careers may one more time create an indescribable heat on stage. And this is directly from their website as I'm reading, because I want to do justice by RIZIN. So the first concept is finale, a platform where the fighters at the top of their careers may one more time create an indescribable heat on stage. Second concept, foundation. RIZIN wants to provide a platform where young, ambitious MMA talents may rise and create a dramatic change to the new generation. So they want to attract the up-and-coming fighters. They want to attract the who's who of fighting, whether regardless of what sport or organization they're a part of, and they want to give them a platform to where they could create one big splash in the fight game. So they want to attract the up-and-coming, and then future is the other concept that they have, and that reads a platform where all promotions and fighters may compete while keeping their own unique culture, customs, and traditions. And this is where they stand aside, right? Where I was mentioning earlier, this is what they want to create, the one platform and the one venue where you, regardless of what sport you're a master of or you're dedicated to, you can come here and compete against somebody who follows a completely different martial art or specifies their careers elsewhere, right? Almost dating back to the initial beginnings of the UFC, where you would see the specific karate fighter versus a sumo wrestler or a specific boxer versus a jiu-jitsu specialist. So they're trying to take back to the origins, keep the origins of the MMA sport alive, and do a mixture, right? So they want to do the big grandstanding events, attract the up-and-coming fighters, and pay their respect, provide a venue and a platform to sustain the origins of how MMA was founded. Now, one thing that that RIZIN states on there is that they don't want to compete with any of the existing organizations. They're not interested in competing with any of the existing organizations. They're trying to model themselves more after the UEFA Champions League or the FIFA World Cup. They want to be known as the FIFA or the UEFA of MMA, where they're doing something completely different, just big grandstanding events, big stage, and attracting the best of the best from around the world. Now, this is something where you may recognize from the Pride days. As far as rules, something that stood out to me is when an opponent is grounded. This is something you don't see in Bellator, you don't see in UFC, and a lot of the organizations, right? Now, we used to see this in Pride, and when there's a grounded opponent, the fighter on their feet, they're still allowed to deliver strikes, whether it's stomps to the head or kicks to the head or so forth. The rules allow for striking to take place on a grounded opponent. Another thing that they stand out for, the showmanship, the walkouts, the introductions, the walkouts to the octagon or to the ring. They're allowed to dance and put on performances and bring out performers along with them. And so they like the glitz, the glamour, and that's what they're bringing to the platform, along with good sport and great fighters. And so you see great fights, you see a show, you see entertainment. They're trying to bring all of it together, and they've been successful thus far. RIZIN does allow for their fighters, just like they attract fighters from other organizations. They have that openness with their fighters where they allow their fighters to compete in other organizations as well. So that's pretty cool. To date, they have had 28 events. So again, they started in 2015. And they have had 28 events. Their next event is going to be New Year's Eve of 2020. So to close out 2020 and bring in 2021, RIZIN's going to be putting that show, that grand finale stamp on 2020 and the big welcoming to 2021 with their event. And you bet there's going to be glitz and glamour, fireworks, and you name it. It's going to be a show. If you recall, I believe it was a year ago when Mayweather ended up competing there, and it just gathered news and headlines and so forth. What is Mayweather doing in MMA? And it was like a very rule specific thing, where exhibition match where everybody thought Mayweather's going down as soon as he gets kicked, but the contract was very specific to where he was not allowed to get kicked and so forth. And he fought an up and coming and a big name in kickboxing. The next event, December 31st, 2020. If you're into RIZIN, or if you haven't checked out a RIZIN event, check them out. It's definitely an experience. They currently air on Fight TV, FITE.tv, and check your local listings. See where you could catch them, depending on what region you're in. Check your local listings, see where they're going to be airing in your local region. Fight TV is just the one go-to where they're promoting that their fights are at. And other than that, Listen, I hope I do justice by RIZIN. I know that I could only do so much by telling you the type of event that they put together, but it's definitely one to see. If you haven't caught a RIZIN event yet, very similar to what Dream used to put together, and as far as the fights go, very similar to the content and the quality of fights that Pride used to put together. So definitely a mixture. Pride and Dream had a baby, and RIZIN is its name. Check out their event. New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2020. Check your local listings to see where you could catch it. And for you RIZIN fans out there, this one's for you. So and for those of you who had never heard of RIZIN or haven't heard of them yet, you did now. Check them out. Go to their website. Check out their event on New Year's Eve. You won't be disappointed. So have a good night, everybody. And I'll be bringing you some more episodes here in the coming days. Take care.